Hey guys, welcome into Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. Marco was saying I've been starting every show standing up. I guess I have. I guess it's the nervousness. This is Kelsey handing me the earpiece here. Yeah, I've been wearing this all day and then I take it off and then here we are. Anyway, welcome in on this Tuesday. Yesterday, I feel like I was losing my voice a little bit. I was doing a lot of traveling through airports and not getting much sleep, and so I think just overall I got pretty tired, but we've got the voice back today. And speaking of airports, that is what we are going to focus on right away, because I think there's so many of us out there that have either seen videos or dealt with it ourselves, and I think there's a lot of frustration out there. I think also there's a lot of anxiety out there with people because they're seeing what's happening, and it's already stressful enough for people to go through these airports, get on these planes, and try to get to their destinations. And when you add in all the negatives of what's going on, you add in the fact that some of these airports are operating at maybe 50% of their normal TSA capacity, other airports even less than that. And then we're also seeing now, as we talked about yesterday, the Trump administration initiating ICE agents to come in and somehow help with all of this, facilitate in some form or another. I'm not quite sure exactly what the ICE agents are trained to do when it comes to the TSA situation here. We did see images earlier from the Trump administration, specifically the White House account on Twitter, talking about, hey, look at our great patriots here handing out water. So it is a mess, specifically here in Texas with Houston Hobby and Houston Bush. And so we'll show you some of that, and we'll go down in terms of what's happening at these airports, and specifically what's happening here in Austin as well. And then we'll get into some more of the serious conversations regarding that horrific collision that happened at LaGuardia in New York City. And we actually have sound from the NTSB talking about that today, holding a press conference to explain exactly what happened and what led to this tragedy with both pilots dying. But first, let's focus on what's happening here in Austin, Texas. This was put out a couple of hours ago from, and I've got to give credit to ABIA. I think ABIA's social media has been fantastic throughout the last week dealing with this partial government shutdown. Once again, that's why all of this is happening. We've got a partial government shutdown. We've got TSA agents not getting paid, many of them calling out, and so you've just got less security lines available, so less people working it, same amount of people coming in, if not more, and then there's just lines and people are backed up. So this is from earlier. This was about an hour and a half ago. Austin Bergstrom International Airport saying, good afternoon, travelers. We're expecting over 22,000 departing passengers tomorrow, March 25th, and encourage travelers to arrive at least 2.5 hours early for domestic flights and 3 hours early for international flights. They go on to say TSA PreCheck is available, and so is touchless ID PreCheck. Just be sure to opt in with your airline through their mobile app. Each airline has its own hours for ticket counters, so please get in touch directly with them to inquire when you can drop off your bags. They've been saying this for the past week, telling people to get there 2.5, 3 hours early specifically, and I will say, I had a 9:30 flight, if you will, and I was worried, so I got there at 7 a.m., 2.5 hours early, and the TSA line was nothing. 4 or 5 minutes I was through. The problem being, so much of the traffic that was coming into Houston, which is where my connecting flight was, they were limiting the amount of planes coming in, and then you add in a wind advisory that we had in here and Houston. So the real problem is with Houston specifically. So I want to show you guys a video that I have here. This was sent from our regional team, exactly what people are dealing with over there. So this is Houston Bush Intercontinental Airport. And this is what some of the lines look like. And we were seeing some people that are waiting 4 to 5 hours in these lines, which seems hard to believe, but it's just so backed up, and you don't have enough security standings open here. You just don't have enough agents. And so this is a little walkthrough here just to show you guys how long these lines are stretching outside. They were not meant to go outside. When they're building these airports, that's not part of their plan. But they are so backed up. As you can see here, all these lines snaking around this entire terminal here. This is Terminal E. This is this morning around 7 a.m. So a lot of that traffic that we've seen, between the hours of 5 and 7 with those first morning flights there, This is outside. This is not. These aren't people landing and trying to get Ubers. These are people that are in line. They have now implemented traffic cones to create these snake lines here to then get people inside the terminal. So I'll show it to you guys once more. It's unfathomable. I mean, it's just unbelievable that it would stretch as far as it does. But this is what a lot of people are dealing with. Now, I did go through Houston Bush. It was not this bad, but I was there around 5:30 in the morning, and I expected something like this. Thankfully, I think because it was a Tuesday morning, but I say that, and this is Tuesday morning, so I don't know. Maybe this is just the backup from so many of the delays that have occurred over the past week. So that's what people are dealing with at Houston Bush. And then here's Houston Hobby, and some of our people with Fox here talking with some airline passengers who, understandably so, are very upset. As I can't even imagine being in a line for 4 to 5 hours. So this is Robert Hedrick here. He's a Houston traveler. And then you'll also hear from a woman named April Pierce. And I think a lot of us would totally agree with what they have to say.
We should send the Congress people down here to try to get on the flights. And when they see how hard it is, they'll maybe give the funds back and get the people being paid.
This is ridiculous. This is unconscionable. Like, they should be embarrassed. Like, really, this is what you're doing with taxpayers' money? Like,
to April there, I think a sentiment that many of us share. This is ridiculous. This is unconscionable. Like, they should be embarrassed. And I think a lot of people feel that way, that the everyday working Americans, specifically these TSA agents, not getting paid, having to go to work and not get paid. A lot of us out there, I think, would not show up to work if you knew you weren't getting paid. Now, this could all be reconciled later, of course, but a lot of these people are just calling out and saying, why should I go? Why should I go if I'm not getting paid? And this is all over a political spat that we're seeing between the Republicans and the Democrats. And as I showed you guys yesterday, deals have been put forth, and President Trump just telling the Republicans he does not agree with what the Democrats are trying to put out there. And so there was a deal on the table with some options that could fund TSA by the end of the week. That deal eventually was turned down, and President Trump, meanwhile, is saying it's all the Democrats' fault, which is what we saw similarly, as I said yesterday, when we first started streaming with you guys. That was during that entire government shutdown, and we would do a countdown every day. So here we are now. It's not that full government shutdown, but it is partial. So while this is all going on, and this is something I wanted to bring up because I think it's interesting, I'm always interested in the tone of things, right? Like, when something sad has happened, you would hope that the tone of certain things would adhere to that. This is a sad moment, and so let's say something happens, you would hope that everybody around the situation would kind of carry that somberness with them. If something's very happy, maybe they bring that tone into it as well. But something that President Trump specifically is able to do amid all of the turmoil that we see with the war going on, with this partial government shutdown, with what happened in Minnesota, specifically Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities there, with ICE, and all of this fallout, is there's always some sort of press conference going on. And President Trump is a soundbite machine. He truly is. There's nobody like him. He will say things every single day that either make people happy, make them upset, make them scratch their heads, make them shake their heads. It's just what happens. And so while this is all going on, Kristi Noem recently has been relieved, if you will, as being the Secretary of Homeland Security, and Markwayne Mullin, the senator from Oklahoma, has now been tasked with that. So he got sworn in today. So this is the person with DHS that is running TSA, even though these people aren't getting paid. So this is right before they're swearing him in, right before they're going to let his name is Markwayne. That's one name. I'm not saying his middle name. Markwayne is his first name. Markwayne Mullin. Okay, so this is President Trump at this press conference in the Oval Office talking about this partial government shutdown. We'll listen in.
As you know, the department that Markwayne takes over today is currently shut down by radical left Democrat thugs in Congress who have blocked all funding for DHS because they're trying to shield illegal alien criminals, gang members. They want to protect them from being taken out of the country, drug dealers, murderers. They're protecting them all. I don't know how people can vote for these people. I see the midterms are close. I don't know what close means, but I don't know how people can vote for them.
There's President Trump there talking about this partial government shutdown, saying it's being shut down by the radical left Democrats, something he repeatedly does, of course, saying all Democrats, radical left, everything is their fault. So when I was bringing this up earlier with tone, something that I always find interesting is even when there is high-stress situations, people dying like we saw at LaGuardia, whether it's ICE agents arresting people, whether there's some sort of turmoil, he is really good at twisting it into something positive and making it sound like any of the negativity, anything that you're seeing that's negative is either the media's fault or it's the Democrats' fault. And that's exactly what he did today. It's sort of a PR spin and something that he does regularly. So that's President Trump talking about that. Meanwhile, as I said, Markwayne Mullin getting sworn in, and so we'll hear from him now as I pull this up.
Thank you. I think that was the most nervous I've ever been. It just seems surreal being in the Oval Office and having the President of the United States speak so highly of me and then recognize my family and know my family by name. It's humbling, and I never take it for granted, but I've made this very clear that I don't care what color your state is. I don't care if you're red or you're blue. At the end of the day, my job is to be Secretary of Homeland and to protect everybody the same, and we will do that.
So it's Markwayne Mullin there, just after being sworn in to become the new Secretary of Homeland Security there. Obviously a position held by Kristi Noem, but she was essentially fired, if you will, relieved of her duties recently. And I think much of that had to do with the negativity surrounding what happened in Minneapolis with Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good being shot by ICE agents. And so bring someone in like Markwayne Mullin, who I think Trump likes to have people that he thinks are good on television, that can speak, that can spin things a certain way. Obviously, Markwayne Mullin has a ton of experience being on certain committees. We see him on TV a lot, and I think he appreciates that kind of media acumen, if you will. So anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, though, I do want to talk about that serious, deadly collision. That once again, this isn't directly tied to the TSA situation, but it certainly is a red flag in terms of our transportation, specifically air transportation, of what's going on right now. And whether or not it's directly related to TSA, I think there's some sort of domino effect going on here, because as the NTSB says, for something like this to happen, many things have to go wrong. So when we get back, we will show that collision footage again. I warn you, it is distressing footage, and then we'll tell you what the NTSB had to say about those two Air Canada pilots unfortunately dying over the weekend. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back into Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. You can also watch us on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, go to our page, Fox 7 Austin, click on the live tab. There we are. We can also rewatch episodes as well. And of course, per usual, we have our little TikTok simulcast going on as well. You can ask me questions on here. I will try to answer them both here and on here as well. Before we went to break, we were obviously talking about all the air traffic issues, if you will. Specifically TSA not getting paid right now. So many of those agents calling out, ICE agents being called in by the Trump administration to try and help. And I think that's just causing perhaps some more anxiety and confusion for people. We have seen problems in Atlanta. We have seen problems in New Orleans. We have seen a lot of problems right here in Texas. Not so much with Austin or Dallas, but more so Houston, both Bush and Hobby airports. And so with all of that happening here, a horrific accident happening over the weekend in New York City at LaGuardia Airport, one of the busiest and biggest airports in the country, of course, and just a really, really difficult video to watch, I will say that. And so I want to show it again. I know we showed it yesterday. We'll show it again. It has a warning on here, as I mentioned, this from the New York Post here. It is distressing content. There's been some other videos put out that stop the video before the actual collision. So if you don't want to actually watch the collision, I'm just warning you now, this shows the whole thing. Here we go. So you can see here fire trucks being called to another plane. This Air Canada flight right there had just landed, going more than 100 miles per hour, crashing into that fire truck. After it was told to stop, it's crossing right there. Boom, you can see the cockpit totally destroyed. Decapitated is a word that was used, and both of those pilots unfortunately dying, both the pilot and co-pilot. We do know that a flight attendant was also ejected from the plane. Somehow, miraculously, she survived. She will need some surgery. It looks like she's got some broken bones, but besides that, everybody appears to be okay except for the deaths of those two pilots. We also had a live video yesterday showing you guys that the NTSB is still investigating this, obviously, and then today holding another press conference. So I do want to run through some of the sound bites from that we pulled from our stream live now. This is a timeline of the tower audio as it correlates to the video I just showed you. So the NTSB is going to run through this audio in terms of what they see and hear, and then when this transmission gets cut out. So this is about 30 seconds here, but this will sort of run through that timeline of what we just watched.
At 9 seconds, the tower instructed truck 1 to stop. At 8 seconds, there was a sound consistent with the airplane's landing gear touching down on the runway. At 6 seconds, there was a pilot transfer of controls from one pilot to the other. And at 4 seconds, the tower again instructed truck 1 to stop. At 0 seconds, the recording ended.
So you can see here, let's run through that again. So you'll hear exactly.
At 9 seconds.
So 9 seconds remaining there.
The tower instructed truck 1.
Tower instructs that fire truck that's going across to stop. These fire trucks are responding to an odor on a United airline flight, okay? So this is 9 seconds.
To stop. At 8 seconds, there was a sound.
And then a second later, they hear a sound which is consistent with the Air Canada flight landing on the runway. We know how fast these planes come in, and we know how hard it is for them to stop, and just the amount of force that's taken to do so. So you're talking 3-4 seconds here, going more than 100 miles per hour to try and stop this before it hit the fire truck. Impossible. The fire truck would have just had to have somehow gotten out of the way.
Consistent with the airplane's landing gear touching down on the runway. At 6 seconds, there was a pilot transfer of controls from one pilot to the other. And at 4 seconds, the tower again instructed truck 1 to stop. At 0 seconds, the recording ended.
So you see there at 0 seconds, the recording ended. And this was really, I think, the most important piece of information to come out of this press conference today regarding, okay, why did this happen? If they're telling the truck to stop The other trucks stopped. Why does this one not? And so the headline here from the Associated Press, fire truck in LaGuardia crash lacked equipment needed to trigger runway warning systems. Okay, so this fire truck that's responding here did not have a transponder to get this signal from the tower, according to them. Okay? And so I want to show you now, this is from the National Transportation Safety Board Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy. I hope I'm saying that right, Homendy. And this is what she had to say. In order for something like this to happen, you would assume a lot of steps have to go wrong. So we'll listen into what she had to say here. It's about a minute and a half, but very insightful of what she says here. And certainly this is not a problem we see regularly. So in order for something tragic like this to happen, you assume it wasn't just one small error that occurs.
I have seen a number of reports from press about distraction, whether there was distraction among controllers. Look, I would caution pointing fingers at controllers and saying distraction was involved. This is a heavy workload environment. You had a United Airlines flight. We still have to determine what happened at shift change, which was around 10:30. We have to determine who else was in the tower and the facility and available at the time. We know that controller was still on duty for several minutes afterwards. Normally, they would be relieved. We have questions about that. Was anybody available to relieve that controller? We don't know that yet.
So that was a very interesting piece here. I'll rewind that here, what Jennifer says here, the NTSB Safety Board Chairwoman. Typically, when something like this happens, that air traffic controller is supposed to be relieved. So listen to what she says again.
On duty for several minutes afterwards. Normally,
So on duty several minutes afterwards.
It would be relieved. We have questions about that. Was anybody available to relieve that controller? We don't know that yet. We also have questions about what else was occurring, what other traffic they were dealing with at the time. So one thing I will close with before I take questions is we rarely, if ever, investigate a major accident where it was one failure. Our aviation system is incredibly safe because there are multiple layers of defense built in to prevent an accident. So when something goes wrong, that means many things went wrong. And so here, that's why we're here. We're here to prevent this from reoccurring, prevent this from happening again. And that's going to take some time.
So as you could hear her say there, so many things would have to go wrong for something like this to happen because there are multiple layers of security to avoid this. Now this is very interesting as well. As I mentioned it, the fire truck not having the transponder. So LaGuardia Airport is one of 35 major U.S. airports with an advanced surface surveillance system to help eliminate dangerous runway incursions and prevent crashes. So it is built specifically for this, just one of 35 major U.S. airports, okay? Now, controllers in these airports have a display in the tower that's supposed to show them the location of every plane and vehicle, which you would think would be these two right here. This system didn't work as intended because the fire truck wasn't outfitted with a transponder. So you have the system for it, but this fire truck didn't have a transponder. So even if you have that system in place, if one of the components in this giant piece of the puzzle isn't put all the way together, this is what happens. So clearly, somebody at fault for not putting a transponder on one of these fire trucks. Whether or not that could have prevented this remains to be seen, obviously. It could have just been too little, too late in their response to this, because we know these planes are moving just so quickly. Once again, there's 70 people on board, not a massive plane that we see like some of these big 747s, but coming in at more than 100 miles per hour and crashing into that fire truck, killing both the pilots there. I'll go on to read some of the other parts here from the NTSB. They said air traffic controllers should know what's before them, whether it's on airport surface or in the airspace. They have that information to ensure safety. When asked about the lack of a transponder in the fire truck, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which operates this specific airport, LaGuardia, says, quote, unable to comment due to the ongoing investigation. Somebody's in trouble. Somebody's in major trouble here in what we're talking about. So there was also some travel delays as well. The crash came at a time of increasing frustration with air travel, as we've been talking about for the first 30 minutes here. I believe, is this a line right now that I'm seeing here? Do we have that?
Of course.
No, we don't have that. I'm seeing out of the corner of my eye here, there's a line. It looks like at an airport there, but I believe that's from another feed. If we are able to get that, I will try and grab that. I assume that's Houston there, as I was showing you guys earlier. Anyway, to finish with the LaGuardia situation, there were 72 passengers, 4 crew members aboard this flight. It originated in Montreal. It was going to New York City. About 40 people, including the 2 from the fire truck, were taken to the hospitals. Some suffered serious injuries. Most were released within hours, and others walked away without needing treatment. The pilot and co-pilot who died in the first fatal crash at LaGuardia in 34 years, were both based out of Canada. This is according to the Port Authority there. So a sad situation for those 2 pilots who were probably just trying to get home themselves, landing on a runway that they thought was secure. Obviously, there's a miscommunication there. The fire truck responding to another airline, getting caught in the runway there. No transponder. The system that's in place, just one of 35 major U.S. airports, not working there. So we'll try and wrap this up if there's any more updates as well. I'll keep my eye, and if there's anything else happening with the security checkpoints here, specifically in Texas and Houston, I mean, that seems to be the one. When we come back, we'll also talk about the war in Iran, the update there. As I mentioned, Markwayne Mullin getting sworn in, President Trump talking, getting asked questions about the war in Iran, so you'll hear from him. And then we'll also try to show you guys video of that Valero facility explosion that we showed you yesterday, that breaking news that came in the middle of the show, and we were seeing from some TxDOT cameras that there was an explosion at a facility in Port Arthur, and all of a sudden billows of smoke, fire and flames, the whole 9 yards. So we'll try to show you guys that as well. You're watching Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. Welcome back to Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. You can also watch us on YouTube. Just go to our page, Fox 7 Austin, hit the live tab. We will be right there as well. And then, of course, we're here from 6:30 to 7:30, and then on the Fox Local app, it goes again at 7:30. So if you missed anything, you can rewatch anything there. And, of course, we've got our little TikTok simulcast on here as well. It's funny, the less we talk about the Nancy Guthrie situation, the less people we have interested on TikTok. There is no updates there, so I have nothing to give you on that front. But if there is one, we'll be sure to do that. I mean, it was at a point when we were doing this show, we would have 500-600 people on here watching us, talking to us, and whether it was Jenna up here or Marco up here or what have you, then we also had a camera outside of her home as well. I mean, the media frenzy around that was pretty unbelievable. Anyway, no update on that front. I did want to talk about an update in terms of the war in Iran, something we've been following for almost a month now, as we head into about the fourth to fifth week of this thing when you really think about it. And the biggest news coming out of the day from the Associated Press here, the U.S. to send around 1,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne Division of the Middle East. So we are talking about 1,000 troops here. They're going to be sent in the coming days. The unit is considered the Army's emergency response force and can typically be deployed on short notice. The force would include a battalion of the 1st Brigade Combat Team, as well as Major General Brandon Tegmeyer, the division's commander, and division staff, according to the person who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive military plans. Interesting here. It is the latest addition of American troops after U.S. officials last week said thousands of Marines aboard several Navy ships will be heading to the region. I just had a friend who got married who is a Marine. Thank you for your service, Tuan. And he was telling me any day now, they are just waiting to be deployed out there. So certainly a scary situation, I think, for a lot of families out there as this war continues on, heading into almost the end of March now. Now, President Trump, during this swearing-in ceremony and press conference with Mark Wayne Mullen, who's now the new head of DHS, he is, of course, asked about the war, as he is every day. And I found it really interesting what he had to say here. And this is something he's been doing a lot lately, where it's like, I shouldn't tell you, but I'll tell you anyway. He'll say, I don't like to say this, or I shouldn't tell you this, or should we say it? It's kind of like, hey, these were things that weren't meant to be said publicly, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't know if that's some tactic he's using, but that's what we've seen a lot of lately. So this is President Trump being asked about the war right now.
I don't like to say this.
Watch here.
Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure. I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it. It's like, take me. That's all they can do. And yet, if you read the New York Times or if you watch ABC fake news or NBC fake news, you'd say it's a close battle. It's not a close battle. They're totally defeated. We killed their Navy in, would you say 3 days, Pete? Gone. In fact, I was a little upset with Pete. I said, why didn't you save the ships? We could have used them, right?
So once again, I was talking about this earlier in terms of tone, where he starts the conversation and he's like, I shouldn't tell you about this. It's like some conversation you'd have behind closed doors with somebody, or I shouldn't be bringing it up. And at the very end here, he says to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, he says, I told Pete, well, when we shot down their Navy, the Iranian Navy, why didn't we take their ships? And he kind of laughs about it. So once again, sort of the tone thing I brought up at the very beginning, TSA agents not getting paid, you've got problems going on, Democrats and Republicans are in this policy gridlock, people aren't getting paid, and then you've got the war going on, you have people getting deployed. I mean, these are all real things that are happening, and then the tone is like, well, what did I tell you, Pete? So it's very interesting. I'll go back to where he puts the blame as well. He thinks right here, listen to the very beginning.
Well, I think we're going to end it.
I think we're going to end it.
Tell you for sure. I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won.
So he says it's been won. Basically saying we've already won. But the only people he says are keeping it alive as he continues to go on.
The only one that likes
is the
to keep
media.
it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it. It's like, take me. That's all they can do. And yet if you...
Anyway, so that's him saying, hey, if I want to take out this power plant, I certainly can. It's basically looking at me saying, take me there, and saying he believes the war is over. And really the only thing that's keeping it going in his eyes is the fake news media. So while he's giving this little spiel here, he then tells Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, hey, why don't you come up? Why don't you give us a little speech here? So this is Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Listen to this. Very interesting. This is a little long, this is the longest video we'll play today. It's 2 minutes. We'll break it all down.
About a 3-minute statement on how we're doing in this, as I call it, military operation. People don't like me using the word war, but so I won't. But the Democrats call it a war. How about a little statement? I think he's done a very good job. Do we agree he's done a good job, Mark? What? Can we take some of your time? Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Once again, the tone thing I was talking about, saying, let me bring Pete Hegseth in here. He's doing a great job, right? Let's all laugh. It's all good. It's all great. Also, I noticed Hegseth tried to, I think, unbutton his suit there. This is very tight on him. This is very tight here.
Mr. President, you're spot on. Never in history has a modern military, Iran had a modern military, a modern Navy, a modern Air Force, modern air defenses, leadership, massive bunker. Never has a modern military been so rapidly and historically obliterated, defeated from day one with overwhelming firepower. The air campaign that we've conducted, that Israel's conducted
Watch the
alongside
hand
us,
movements coming in.
was one for the history books, truly. And it's because we have a president of the United States that when he sends his warfighters out to fight, he unties their hands to actually go out and close with and destroy the enemy as viciously as possible from moment one. And that's why we see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs. You have a choice as we loiter over the top of Tehran, as the president talked about your future. The president has made it clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that. And so we're keeping our hand on that throttle as long as hard as is necessary to ensure the interest of the United
Did you see that? Okay, so obviously I shouldn't be talking. I use my hands a lot as well. But this is the Secretary of War here talking, and watch his hand movement. President Trump watching. Now watch this. Watch when he does the throttle thing. Watch President Trump's eyebrows.
Clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that. And so we're keeping our hand on that throttle as long as hard as is necessary to ensure the interest of the United States of America are achieved on that battlefield. This is not Iraq and Afghanistan. This is not a president who's interested in vague end states. He's been very clear with us about what we need to accomplish, creating the conditions for them never to have a nuclear capability, and that's exactly what we're doing in historic fashion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You know, the only two people that were quite disappointed, I don't want to say this, but I have to. I said, Pete and General Raisin Kane, I think this thing's going to be settled very soon. Here they go. Oh, that's too bad. Pete didn't want it to be settled. It's these guys are doing a great job. That's a good attitude, though, Tom, right? They were not interested in settlement.
So once again, as I mentioned, the tone earlier, hey, I shouldn't tell you this. This is kind of what happened behind closed doors. And then once again, saying right here at the end, making it sound like Pete Hegseth and General Raisin Kane did not want this thing to end swiftly. Like, oh no. So I found that very interesting. And once again, let's just watch it once more. Watch when he does the throttle thing. Here we go. Watch the eyebrows here.
As long as hard as is necessary to ensure the interest of the United States of America are achieved on that battlefield. This is not Iraq and Afghanistan. This is not
and also comparing it to Iraq and Afghanistan, saying this isn't like some failed state situation. This isn't. There's clear objectives. This isn't a war. President Trump also said, I call it a military operation. They don't want me to say war. The Democrats call it a war, basically saying that's not what this is in its entirety. It is just a mere military operation. But these strikes started February 28th, so we are moving into almost a month now and Pete Hegseth here, President Trump, very happy with that. So we'll try to wrap this up as we come back. We're going to take another break, and then I also want to show you guys the latest on that explosion that we saw at that Valero facility in Port Arthur, and Senator Ted Cruz from Texas also commenting on that today. This just outside of Houston. A shelter-in-place order was put out yesterday. Some pretty wild video that we have as well. You're watching Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. Hey guys, welcome back into Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. As we were going into break, I did see some reports. I cannot confirm it with Fox News or the Associated Press, but there's a report spinning around on social media, specifically Twitter, saying that the U.S. Army is increasing the maximum enlistment age from 34 to 42 and possibly eliminating waiver requirements for a single conviction of possession of marijuana. So basically, what could that mean? I don't know. That certainly is a big change. You're talking about a 8-year difference there, and that would directly affect the millennials as well. So I can't confirm any of that. This is swirling around on social media. If there is a push alert or a report from Fox News or the Associated Press. I will try to read more of that. But if you are seeing that online, nothing's been confirmed by any of the major outlets as of yet. That was first, I believe, in from disclose.tv, and people now making jokes saying the millennials are going to be drafted. I don't have any confirmation on that. I did want to go back to this. This is from yesterday, and we talked about this a little bit. It was breaking news as it came in. This is from Fox Business here. And so this oil refinery out in Port Arthur, we hear an explosion at this Valero oil refinery that sent massive plumes of smoke billowing into the air. According to this refinery, that's just about 90 miles east of Houston, they process 435,000 barrels per day. The company says about 770 employees work at the site. Thankfully, no injuries, according to Port Arthur Mayor Charlotte Moses. She went on to say, there's been an explosion, yes, but we're okay. Everybody's okay. They're trying to put out the fire as quickly as possible. They are working fast. Our firefighters are on the scene. They're working really hard. So I now have another angle of this from yesterday, and it looks quite apocalyptic, as you can see here. So this is from KFDM here, this video courtesy of KFDM. And as you, oh, I didn't even bring it up. There you go. You can hear it burning. You can see the smoke there. It's a wild scene. This is that Valero refinery facility in Port Arthur. A massive fire, tons of smoke, as you can see there. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported. We'll keep our eye on this. But Senator Ted Cruz talking about this earlier on Twitter, saying in part, if I bring it back up, I can't even get it now. Once again, let's go back to what I was just talking about with this enlistment situation. Let's see. So apparently there is a document here, effective April 20th, 2026. I don't know how legitimate this is. What was that? This is the military website? I just find it interesting, the marijuana possession thing, and it's effective April 20th. I don't know if they meant to do that. 420, I don't know, that's kind of a joke. Anyway, it would move the enlistment from 34 to 32. Let's bring this up. This is the summary of the changes from armypubs.army.mil here. Here we go. Increases the maximum enlistment age up to and including age 42 for non-prior service applicants. Let's see if we can find, here you go. Eliminates requirement of a waiver for a single conviction of possession of marijuana or a single conviction of possession of drug paraphernalia. Adds major misconduct waiver approval authority to Commanding General United States Army Division for regular Army and U.S. Army Reserve applicants, for Chief National Guard Bureau for Army National Guard applicants. My goodness. So essentially opening the window up for more people to join. And we have heard from the Trump administration, specifically the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, being asked, hey, have you considered a draft? And she said a couple weeks ago, nothing's off the table with President Trump. He likes to look at all of his options. So this is a very interesting development here, what appears to be a way to try and get more people in the military, moving that age, the enlistment age, from 34 to 42. And whether or not that means anything regarding this war in Iran remains to be seen. But an interesting development. And if made effective on April 20th, that is 420, I don't think this is trying to be funny. Interesting. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we will try and wrap up the show. You're watching Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. Hey guys, welcome back into Austin Live right here on the Fox Local app. Sorry, I was trying to read through something here. As I mentioned before the break, we were getting some wind of something on social media. Our producer right here, you can probably see her head right there, is trying to find this document. And once again, we're trying to get this, verified. I typically like to wait until we see something from the Associated Press or Fox News in particular. But there's a link that we have here that I did pull up, and this appears to be an unclassified document. And the reason this is very interesting is right here, this second bullet point. Increases the maximum enlistment age up to and including age 42 for non-prior service applicants, which clearly is an effort to get more bodies because not enough people are enlisting or re-enlisting, as we can see. And if this has to do directly with the war effort in Iran, what does that mean for a possible draft? What does that mean for people that are needed for this war effort? And I think a lot of people obviously right now wondering, okay, is there going to be a draft? What does this mean? What does this mean for the younger folks? What does this mean for guys that are kind of my age, leading up to this 42 years of age now? Is someone my age who, all of a sudden wants a career change, can enlist all the way up to 42 now? So it's got another 11-year window on guys my age around there. Very interesting development. Also very interesting here, the other part of it, if you look here, eliminates requirement of a waiver for a single conviction of possession of marijuana or a single conviction of possession of drug paraphernalia. So obviously that would be a hurdle if you're trying to get people to enlist, but I think because of the legalization across numerous states and certainly the use of marijuana becoming more prominent, I mean, you can go into stores and buy it, that would essentially open the door for a lot of people that wouldn't otherwise be allowed to join to now join. So essentially making it easier by both age or some type of background, criminal background, if you want to call it that, for a single conviction of possession of marijuana. So very interesting developments here. If this is in fact all true, once again, not a normal document we're looking at here, but as our producer Kelsey just mentioned, it would seem very ridiculous to try and fake an unclassified 155-page document here from the Department of the Army out of Washington, D.C. here. So this was by order of Secretary of the Army Randy A. George. He is a general of the United States Chief of Staff, and it says effective April 20th, so just about a month away, and this was apparently put together on March 20th. So I don't know what this means for the future. We will try to keep our eye on this as things move forward. A very interesting development. I will be curious what this means for the current war effort and what we're going to see moving forward. We'll try to have more updates on the war and all things going there. And I think that's something we'll probably cover every day. If there is an update with the Valero facility explosion and fire in Port Arthur, we'll also keep an eye on that. And obviously, so many of you out there that are traveling, if you've got a flight to catch tomorrow, I wish you the best. Austin Airport saying arrive 2.5 hours early for domestic flights, 3 hours early for international flights. And I can tell you from experience, it is much worse in those early morning hours. Have a great night. We'll see you guys tomorrow.